Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 24th of October and wishing you very happy Diwali to you guys. So guys, let's start with the today's video. Now, before starting up, first of all, I would like to tell you that you can download the explainer PDF of all the notes that we have given here. In this particular notes, you will find the compilation of all the articles that we have taken in the today's newspaper. Okay, and in the last, you will also get the mains practice question. Okay, guys, you can download this explainer PDF from the Telegram channel. The link for the Telegram channel has been given in the description box in YouTube. Moreover, you can visit the Telegram and can search there by typing Thinking Palette by Sahil. There also you will get these notes. Now, before starting up, first of all, let's take the overview of the entire newspaper, and in this particular overview, we'll try to understand that which articles are actually important for our examination. Now, this is the page number 1, and the page number 1, Xi Jinping begins third term with the key allies on board. Now guys, this particular article talks about the third term that has been started, and in this particular direction, we'll take the entire issue. Will take what is the National Congress that was held. In that National Congress, what is the Central Committee, Politburo, and all those things. Then moving on, after that, we see here that the other articles are not very much important with respect to the examination. Then advertisements, etc. has been given. So guys, we will directly be moving on, and in this particular direction, we find here that the invisible disease, okay, or the SSD disease has been discussed. So what is this SSD disease and all those things we'll see here in this particular article. Then further moving on, coming to the editorial page. Now on the editorial page, we can see first of all deciphering the samba politics in Brazil. So this article talks about the presidential election in the Brazil which are due. We'll see this entire article. Fine. And then ancient stewardship. So guys, this particular article is talking about that how in the ancient India there were some of the water irrigation practices that were prevalent. So those accounts have been given. So for ancient Indian history, this article will see. Then further moving on, vital intervention. So guys, this particular article is talking about that Supreme Court must do everything to curb the propagation of the hate speech. Okay, so we have seen recently that the Supreme Court has ordered the enforcement agencies, the policing, that they should take the cognizance of the hate speech that are being given. Okay, now in this particular direction, already we have discussed the similar thing in the Saturday. Okay, then moving on, out of the favor, fine. So the article is talking about the Pakistan where the election commission had disqualified the Imran Khan. Okay, so the article doesn't contain much of the relevant substance with respect to the UPSC exam. Then further moving on, upholding unity, opposing uniformity. Okay, guys, the article basically is talking about the opposition that is going on with respect to the Hindi language that has been imposed. Now, the article is having a political inclination, talking about that what is the interest of the BJP and what other political parties' interests are there. Then moving on, India is second only to Russia in doping violation. So AIU data. So guys, recently the doping issue has come into the news. Now the article is talking about that which country had how many of the cases of doping. Russia 87, India 62, Kenya 53. Now you don't need to go too much into the detail and reading every country's data. Okay, then moving on, after that, the CCI's 1300 crore rupees fine on the Google. So this particular article talks about the recent controversy of the CCI and the Google that has happened. We'll see this particular article in detail. The Dharavi redevelopment project with respect to the urbanization and related issues, this particular article will also see. Then how a new feature from iPhone 14 lineup is creating false emergencies. So article is not very much important with respect to the examination, no need to go there. Then further moving on, UK is ready to support manufacture of Indian jet. So guys, we'll see the India UK cooperation, and in this particular direction, the developments that have happened, we'll see all those particular developments. Then moving on, after that, after 10 years, sacked workers at Maruti plant seek reinstatement. So guys, 10 years back, there was the crisis, there was a kind of a vandalism that happened into the Maruti plant. So many of the workers were removed. Okay. Then moving on further, Home Ministry cancels FCRA license of 2 NGOs headed by the Sonia Gandhi. Now you don't need to go in these particular kind of details that every day which NGOs license have been cancelled and all such kind of a thing. Just understand this particular thing, that under the FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, every NGO has to take a license from the Ministry of Home Affairs, and only then they can receive the foreign funding. Okay, but some of these licenses have been now been cancelled. Then moving on in this particular direction, After that, teachers training key to NCF implementation. We'll see this particular article, a very good article with respect to the education. 36 satellites launched as part of the ISRO's heaviest rocket launch. We'll see this particular article also. Then today is Monday, so on Monday we have the money wise page, and this money wise page contains the investing and all such kind of things. So no need to go in this particular thing, doesn't contain much of relevant substance. Xi Jinping promotes 3 Indian border command generals to PLA. So we'll see this particular article also with respect to the Xi Jinping, as he had taken up the third president terms. After that, Sunak declares fresh bid for British PM with promise of integrity. So we see this thing that in the UK there is the political crisis that is going on, and in this particular political crisis that is going on, now the UK will get the third prime minister. So the politics of UK and etc. have been mentioned. Then we have the sports page and yesterday's match performance of India, where India won against the Pakistan, that is being discussed. Okay, so that is all guys about the overview of the entire newspaper, and now let's go into the detailed discussion. But before that, I would like to tell you, just a minute, I would like to tell you that tomorrow the Hindu will not be published. Okay, so you can see this particular thing, that tomorrow on the occasion of the Diwali there will be no issue of the Hindu newspaper, that is 25th of October. Okay, so that is all about this, and now let's take the articles by one in the detail. Fine. So guys, we'll take the first article. Now the first article we are taking is from the Kofi Annan, the former United Nations Secretary General. Fine. So the Kofi Annan says that if corruption is a disease, then the transparency is essential part of its treatment. Okay, if corruption is a disease, then transparency is essential part of its treatment. So understand this particular thing. Transparency removes a sense of arbitrary, it removes the arbitrary discretion, and arbitrary discretion that has been there, it leads to the corruption. So therefore, in this particular line, the RTI Act that has come, moreover the e-governance that has come, digitization that has come, they are opening the new gates of the transparency, and that particular transparency will weed out the corruption. Fine. So that is all guys about this particular thing. Now in this particular direction, this particular quote can be used with respect to the GS paper number 2, issues of governance, fine, as well as ethics. Now let's take the first article. Teachers training key to NCF implementation, says expert. Fine. Guys, in this particular article, we are going to discuss a very important development that has happened just 2 days back in the context of the National New Education Policy 2020 that has come. Now, this particular article will be seen with respect to the GS paper number 2, issues related to education. Okay. Now, first of all, I would like to tell you some of a background as well as the way forward, as well as the value addition part, and after understanding that particular background, you will be able to understand this particular article in much more detail. Okay. Now, basically, you might be already knowing this particular thing, that in 2020, we came out with the third education policy, that is the NEP 2020. Before that, guys, we got the first education policy of India in 1968. So first education policy came in 1968, second education policy came in 1986, which was amended in the 1992, and the third education policy came in 2020. Now this particular education policy aims to transform the education at both the school level as well as the higher levels. Okay, higher education also was to be transformed. Now, there were many of the aims of the new education policy 2020. If you want to see the entire mandate of the NEP, we have a dedicated separate video on our channel also, you can visit there. Now, when we talk about the NEP, guys, NEP focused on transforming the education system in India. It emphasized that the education which is prevalent now, which is based on memorization of fact, rote learning and all such kind of a thing, such kind of education is needed to be transformed, and for that particular thing we need to bring critical thinking. We need to focus on learning, okay, and all those critical learning, out of the box solution, such kind of a things need to be strived into the children by the way of education. So therefore, the NEP was brought, and as a part of the NEP, there was also provided that we need to have a revised curriculum. So the revised curriculum was also needed. Now guys, in this particular direction, in NEP 2020, there was a provision for the NCF, that is the National Curriculum Framework. Now what is this National Curriculum Framework? it will be a new revised framework, it will be a revised syllabus which will provide that how the education is to be given to the students. Now this NCF was supposed to have the four parts. Number one, the NCF for the school education. Number two, there will be the NCF for the early childhood care and education. Third, there will be the NCF for the teachers education, and fourth, the national curriculum framework or NCF for the adult education. So there were the four parts of the NCF that were to be introduced. Now guys, what has happened? The government has introduced the first component of the NCF, that is the NCF for the early childhood care and education. This component has been released. Now, before going in this particular, the component of NCF that has been released by the government, I would like to tell you some little bit more details. Guys, when the new education policy 2020 came, it was provided that the national curriculum framework would focus on, the Panchkosh concept. Panchkosh concept. Now, the Panchkosh concept means the integration of body with the mind. Now the NCF will focus on 5 types of development. Number one, it will focus on physical development, sharirik vikas. Okay. Second, the focus will be on the development of life energy, pranic vikas. Okay. Then the focus will be on emotional and mental development, that is the mansik vikas, intellectual development, bodhik vikas, and spiritual development, that is the chetsik vikas. So these are the 5 types of development that the education will promote, and national curriculum framework will be based on certain pillars, certain parameters, that these 5 types of development is to be promoted. Now, as I told you that 2 days back, the Ministry of Education has launched the national curriculum. So this NCF has been launched for the children in the age group of 3 to 8 years. Now, one more thing I want to tell you. You might have seen this particular thing a lot in the news, that when the new education policy 2020 was launched, at that point of a time, it was provided that the 10+2 framework will be replaced with 5+3+3+4 framework. Okay. Now, the first block, that is the 5, it will focus on the education of the children between the age of 3 to 8 years. Then the next block, that is the 3, it will focus on 8 to 11. Then again it will focus on 11 to 14, and the fourth block, that will be focusing on the children between the 14 to 18. So the first one, that is the first block of the NCF, okay, which will be focusing on the children between 3 to 8, it has been released. Okay, and it is called as the NCF. Okay, I'll use a different pen. So it has been called as the NCF for the childhood care and education. Now, first of all, let's understand that what are the features of this particular framework. Now, this particular framework, number one, it provides that the NCF provides this particular thing, that there needs to be simple worksheet for the 3 to 6 age group of children. So there will be the dedicated worksheets which will contain what needs to be taught to the children. There will not be any dedicated books. There will not be any dedicated syllabus for the children in this particular age. It has been provided that the children specifically within 3 to 8, the children between the age of 3 to 6 groups, there should not be any prescribed textbooks. They should not be burdened with the textbooks. Rather, there should be the play-based learning. There should be the learning from the toys. They needs to be taught the stories of the Panchtantra, and out of that Panchtantra stories, they need to be given certain moral education and such kind of lessons. Fine. So therefore, it has been provided that there should be the toy-based learning. Stereotypes needed to be avoided. In the education, gender representation should be there. Now, if you see in the books, it has many times shown that if there is some kind of a care work, domestic kind of a work, that is being done by the women, and if there is the work of going outside, earning a livelihood, that kind of a work has been shown that it is being done by the fathers or by the male. So that gender stereotypes needed to be removed, and gender representation needs to be given. Ethical and moral awareness is to be given. Okay, some more points with respect to is this, that guys, the NCF focuses that the education needs to be onto the basis of the storytelling techniques. There needs to be the real life experiences that are needed to be taught to the children between the age of 3 to 8 years. Moreover, the board games will play a very important role. Through the board games, they are needed to be taught mathematics. Through the Panchatantra stories, they need to be taught the moral education and all such kind of things. Guys, it has been provided that this Panchatantra should be used to teach the children between the age of 6 to 8 years. Moreover, it has also been provided that it has also been provided that there should be the simple worksheets that are more than sufficient to meet the curricular goals. Okay, and in this particular direction, both the public and the private schools need to focus on this particular thing, and the medium of education has also been provided. It provides that in this particular age group, the mother tongue should be the primary medium of instruction. Okay, after that particular thing, the state governments can take a call that whether they want to continue the mother tongue or they want to use some other language for the instruction. But into the age group of 3 to 8, the primary mode of education needs to be the mother tongue, and it has to be followed in both the public as well as private schools. English could be the second language. English could be the second language, and in this particular thing, no timeline has been given by the Ministry of Education. So all these kind of things have been provided into the NCF. So guys, just to paraphrase, I am telling you two things, though we have discussed it earlier. So it focuses on the children between the age group of 3 to 8 years, 3 to 8 years. In this particular thing, the children till the age of 3 to 6, there will be no books. There will be no books for them. And the children between the 6 to 8, there can be certain basic books, and mainly the Panchatantra stories and all such kind of things needed to be used to give them education. Okay, so that is all about this particular article. I hope that you have understood it, and now we'll move to the next article. The CCI is a 1300 crore fine on the Google. Okay, this particular article, guys, talks about the recent controversy going on between the CCI and the Google. Now, this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 3, GS paper number 3, fine, issues, GS paper number 3, issues related to, just a minute, GS paper number 3, corporate sector, issues related to monopoly, okay. Now, before going on, I would like to guys give you a little bit of a background so that you can understand in a better way the context of this particular article. Just on the Saturday we have discussed this particular thing, that there has been a kind of a controversy going on between the Competition Commission and Google, where a fine has been slapped onto the Google. So we'll understand this particular article in much more detail, that what are the charges which have been imposed on the Google and what could be the implications of such kind of a things in the time to come. Now, first of all, little bit I would like to tell you about the CCI, that is the Competition Commission of India. Now, when we talk about the Competition Commission of India, it is a dedicated body, it is a watchdog to ensure that there is a fair competition in India. There is a Competition Act of 2002, Competition Act of 2002. Now, this particular act clearly provides that the big companies, particularly the large tech companies, within that a vibrant competition needs to be there. Now, understand this particular thing, the competition is very essential for the consumers as well as for the citizens. See, if there will be the competition, it will bring more and more innovations. Secondly, the focus on after sale services, or focus on the consumer experience. Will always be better. Moreover, guys, understand this particular thing. If there will be a vibrant competition in any sector, it will give more choice to the consumers. And finally, the products that are being offered in a market where there is adequate competition, price will always be competitive. Price will always be less, and that particular thing will always give the benefit to the consumer. So the competitive prices will give the benefit to the consumer. So all these are the benefits if there is the competition. However, if there is no competition in any sector of economy, it will lead to the monopoly. And such kind of a monopoly will always be against the interest of the consumers, because monopoly will dictate the price. Monopoly will mean that the innovation will not be focused, because the company knows that they have the entire market shares. So therefore, monopoly is to be avoided and competition is to be instilled, and that is the focus of the Competition Act. And under Competition Act, Competition Commission of India does this particular responsibility, that there should be the adequate competition. Now, the Google has been slapped slapped with a fine because the Google is killing the competition. Now we'll understand one by one that what are the charges on the Google and how the Google is killing this particular competition. Number one, guys, understand this particular thing. The first charge that has been imposed onto the Google is because of the Android operating system. Now, guys, you know this particular thing that today when we talk about the mobile phone operators or mobile phone, every mobile phone needs an operating system, and there are the two biggest operating systems, okay, that are there in the world. One is the iOS of Apple and second is the Android. Now the Android is owned by the Google. So the Android is owned by the Google since 2005. And guys, when we talk about India, the 97% of India's mobile phones, in India there are 600 smartphones that are there, and out of that 97% uses the Android platform of the Google. Okay, that is something that is happening. Now guys, understand this particular thing. If let's say Samsung or Xiaomi or any company wants to use Android, they need to sign an agreement with the Google, and in this particular agreement Google provides this particular thing that they have to give the Google applications pre-installed into the mobile phone. Okay, so when you are getting the mobile phone, you might be seeing this thing that there are the Google browser that is pre-installed there, Google Play Store is pre-installed there, and many of other Google apps, for example, let's say YouTube is pre-installed there. So the Google is signing an agreement with the mobile phone makers that these apps have to be given there. Now this particular thing, what it is doing, guys, it is giving the monopoly to the Google. Other phones apps are not there, only Google's apps are there, so obviously it is a Google's monopoly. So this particular thing is anti-competitive, and because of this particular practice, the CCI has slapped a fine on Google. Second thing that is happening, guys, see, understand this particular thing, that if you are having a Android mobile phone and if you want to download an application, what you do, you simply visit the Google Play Store, and from the Google Play Store you download the applications. 90%, more than 90% of the applications that are being downloaded from the Android mobiles globally, they are being downloaded from the Play Store. Now guys, understand this particular thing. The Competition Commission of India has provided this particular thing that if any person wants to download a application, then they have to download the Google Suite, and in this Google Suite there is a Play Store, and majority of the applications have to be installed from the Play Store only, and even the app developers, they have to showcase their application onto the Play Store. So maximum more than 90% of the applications are listed on Play Store, and from there only they have to download. In majority of the cases, consumers do not have an option for side loading or downloading the applications outside the Play Store. Now this particular thing, what has done, again it has given the monopoly to the Google. So as majority of apps are being downloaded by the Play Store, which is owned by Google, Google again has a monopoly. So this is something that has been said by the Competition Commission of India is not good. Then the third case that comes in this particular direction is the Google's dominance in the general internet search market. Fine. Now you see this particular thing, there is a Google Chrome. There is a Google Chrome, search engine Google Chrome is there, Firefox is there. Now majority of the searches are happening by these platforms, and these platforms are pre-installed into the Android mobile phone apps. According to the data, last year 92% of the searches that happened globally, they had happened by the Google's either Chrome or the Firefox. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that actually what is happening, as the majority of the searches are being done by the Google, and Google uses these platforms to showcase the ads, majority of the benefit is being claimed by the Google. And then finally understand this particular thing, as Google is giving the apps pre-installed into the mobile phone, and in these particular apps there is the app such as the YouTube. Now this particular YouTube, it is a revenue earning apps. Now YouTube, onto the YouTube you find that the YouTube premium subscription is there. Okay, moreover YouTube showcases a lot of advertisements. So YouTube is a very big revenue earning software or revenue earning platform, and as Google is giving that particular thing, fine, so it is giving a significant edge. So therefore the Google has been imposed with a fine. Now there have been in the past also the antitrust cases that have been filed onto the Google. Now understand what is the meaning of this word antitrust. Guys, antitrust it is any kind of a case, it is any kind of a matter where the competition is being killed. So if Google is killing the competition, antitrust case will be filed on that. So antitrust cases are those cases which are related, related to the competition in the market. Now earlier also there are certain cases that has come. Number one, in June 2021, the competition commission ordered that what has happened in the in the television market, the Android has maintained a kind of a dominant position. Now if you go to buy a smart TV, in that smart TV, what will be there? The Android will be pre-fitted, and in that Android platform there will be the Google's dominance that will be there. The same thing that is happening into the mobile phone, it is happening into the smart TV market also. So for that particular thing there was a charge. After that, guys, also one thing has happened is that the Google in 2020, there was another case that it has abused its dominant position to put its payment systems. Now what is this particular system? I'll tell you in very simple words. So suppose you go to Google Play Store, and on the Google Play Store you want to purchase an application. If you want to purchase an application, then obviously you need to make the payment for that particular application, and when this payment is to be made, Google is showing its own platform for making the payment. It is not giving the other options. So other gateways are not being shown, only the Google's gateway was being shown at that point of a time. Okay, for example, Google Pay. Oh, fine. So therefore it has again killed the competition, and for that particular thing basically for that particular thing the Competition Commission of India has held the Google accountable. Now this is not only in India that this kind of a thing is happening. In other countries also the Google has been charged of killing the competition. What has happened? For example, in the US, in the European Union, there have been the antitrust cases. What are antitrust? The cases which, the suits under which a company has been charged that they have killed the competition. So antitrust cases in US and European Union are also there, and around $8 billion have been, for the values of $8 billion, the Google has been sued. So these are all the developments in this particular direction that has happened. So guys, beyond this, you don't need to go and read even a single word. So all these are all the dimensions in this particular article. I hope that you have understood it, and now we'll move to the next article. Xi Jinping begins the third term with key allies on board. Okay, so guys, in the now the National Congress of the CPC will discuss in this particular article, and with the culmination of the National Congress of the CPC, what are the key takeaways and how the Xi Jinping is going to start the third term as the president. We'll see those all issues in this particular article. I had given you a detailed background as well as a value addition in this particular article also, so we'll see that also. Okay, now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, international relations, and within the IR, the issues in neighborhood. Will see this particular article. Okay, now let's start with the article. Basically, guys, when we talk about the China, so Communist Party of China, it is the dominant political party within the China, and the CPC holds the control over the Chinese politics. Now basically there is within the CPC convenes the National Congress. CPC convenes the National Congress, and this National Congress is convened every 5 years, and this particular National Congress will provide that what will be the focus of the Communist Party of China, what type of development will be taken by the China, what will be the priorities for the China for the next 5 years. So a kind of a 5-year plan or a 5-year target or a 5-year trajectory of growth is laid by the National Congress of the Communist Party of China. Now what has happened? On 16th of October, that is 8 days back, the 20th session of this National Congress begin. Fine. So this is a little bit of a background. Now guys, when we talk about this National Congress of the Communist Party, I told you it is held every 5 years, and more than 2000 delegates across the country join it. Now the biggest objective of this National Congress are 3. Number 1, to lay the objective for next 5 years. The second is to second is to elect the high level bodies, and in that is there is a central committee. There is a central committee that is to be appointed, and third is the Politburo Standing Committee, the Politburo and Politburo Standing Committee that is to be appointed. So three objectives: number one, laying the agenda; number two, electing the central committee; and number three, electing the Politburo and Politburo Standing Committee. Now let's understand a little bit about these bodies, as what these bodies are and what these bodies do. So first of all, the National Congress, it appoints the central committee. It appoints the central committee. Now the central committee, it is the party's policy setting body, and it is selected for the 5 years. Now it has nearly 370 members in it. So more than 2000 members will be joining, they will be joining into the National Congress, and out of that 370 members will be elected for the central committee. Now this central committee, after the Congress will end, this central committee will meet to select the Politburo. Okay, now the Politburo, it is a body of 25 members which will take the majority of decisions. Now see, these 370 members, fine, they will be appointing the next 25 members which will take the major decisions, and that body is called as a Politburo. Then this 25 member Politburo will then elect the Politburo Standing Committee. Now this Politburo Standing Committee will have a further only the 7 members, and they will make the final decisions. Okay, so I'll just make a hierarchy here so that you can understand. So there is a National Congress. Now the National Congress will appoint the central committee. This central committee will appoint the Politburo, and the Politburo will appoint the Politburo Standing Committee. So it has more than 2000 members. It has around 370 members. Politburo has around 25 members, and Politburo Standing Committee has 7 members. It is the highest decision making body in the China. Okay, now when we talk about the Politburo, guys, Politburo, it controls 3 of the most important bodies within the China. Okay, and these bodies are, it controls number one, just a minute, it controls the Military Affairs Commission, number one. Okay, and this Military Affairs Commissions controlled the armed forces of the China. Guys, understand this thing. Mao Zedong said that the power grows out of the barrel of the gun. So for the power, military power is most important, and therefore control over the armed forces is very important, and that particular thing will be done by the Military Affairs Commission. Then the next is the National People's Congress, the parliament, and then finally it is the State Council, the government's administrative arm, okay, which controls all the civil servants and other administrators. So these 3 bodies are controlled by the Politburo. Fine. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that the last National Congress that was held, it was held in 2017, and at that point of a time the constitution was amended, and Mr. Xi's ideology was added within the constitution of India, within the constitution of China. Apologies. Now that particular thing, what happened? Xi Jinping's ideology, it is called as the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. Now this is something that has improved the stature of the Xi Jinping at that point of a time. Now in the past, only the Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping has been the leaders whose ideologies have been added into the constitution, and after the Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping, the Xi Jinping's ideology has been added. So it has given a more power, more stature to the Xi Jinping. Moreover, the Xi Jinping's status as a core of the party leader has also been established. Fine. So these are certain things that had happened. Now, out of this particular meeting, what are the key takeaways? Number one takeaway out of this particular thing is that Xi Jinping has provided that the emphasis of the China will be on bringing the powerful, strong strategic deterrent capabilities system. Okay, powerful, strong strategic deterrent capabilities system. Xi Jinping provides this particular thing that today China wants to enhance their nuclear deterrence. They want to bring more and more weaponry arsenal into their nuclear weaponry. What has been the case? Actually, you see this thing that China has built at least 250 missile silos in the last 2 years. Moreover, China is also trying to change their nuclear doctrine. For example, India's nuclear doctrine is no first use, where India will never be first using the nuclear weapons. But now what China is doing, China is moving towards the launch on warning nuclear posture. It means that just after giving the warning, China can launch the nuclear weapons. So why the China is doing that thing? Because China wants to build the powerful, strong and strategic deterrence. Then further, China is also focusing on building more and more nuclear warheads. Okay, right now China has around 350 nuclear warheads and they can be doubled in the next 10 years. This is something. So basically, China's focus is that the deterrent systems are needed to be improved, they are needed to be made more and more stronger. Then next thing that has come here is that the China is focusing on the modern the China is focusing on the PLA's People's Liberation Army's modernization. And how they are now modernizing? They are now modernizing by a different approach. So they are modernizing the PLA by reforming the military academies. Okay, they are trying to improve the military logistics and resource management. Now you see this particular thing. You might be knowing already this particular part, that what has happened, China, it is having the confrontation on the LAC, line of actual control, and now on the line of actual control, you know that the weather is very much hostile. It is one of the highest battleground in the entire world. Siachen is the highest battleground. Fine. So here, as the China is bringing an offensive against the India, China needs to have a better logistic facility so that they can transport the heavy weaponry, so that they can bring the arsenals and the troops can be transported there. So the logistic capabilities they are focusing. Then third, China is focusing on increasing the PLA's loyalty to the Communist Party. Now, I told you already that the Mao Zedong said that the power grows out of the barrel of the gun. And as power grows out of the barrel of the gun, it is very much important that the China needs to have the loyalty of their armed forces, and that will be increased in these 5 years. And finally, China has focused on in this National Congress, the focus has been given on winning the local wars. Now, what are the local wars of China? Local war of a China is that, number one, with the LAC, with the India on the LAC, China is fighting a kind of a war. Then the China is fighting a war with the Taiwan, where the China wants to make Taiwan as a part of their country. In the South China Sea, China is having so many of the confrontation. So South China Sea, Taiwan, LAC, these are the local wars for the China. So China wants to win them first, and after that the China will be moving towards attaining the global hegemony. So these are all the developments that had come. So guys, understand this particular thing, that first of all we have discussed the entire basics of this National Congress, what this National Congress does. Then we have seen the key takeaways from the 20th National Congress meet that has started from 16th of October, and now finally coming on this particular article. Guys, see this particular thing, that this is now we are going in this article. Before that, if we don't know the background that I have discussed here, we will not be able to make more sense of this particular article what has come. So basically, what has happened, Chinese leader Xi Jinping has started his third term as the president. Okay, this is something that has happened. I told you that party, after filling the newly announced Politburo Standing Committee, has taken this particular decision, and China has brought his key allies with him in the Politburo Standing Committee. Okay, now as a third term for the Xi Jinping has started, we need to see that how the third presidency Xi Jinping will be leading. Now, in the last two presidencies of the Xi Jinping, we have seen this particular thing, that Xi Jinping has used more of a realism in his foreign policy, and the realism is characterized by competition and not cooperation. And in that competition, China sees that India is a threat to the China. So therefore, China is trying to bring the destability against the India, and all such kind of a thing has happened. In the past, we have seen that the China and Pakistan has carried more collusion with each other, and China and Pakistan are carrying more collusion because of the India. So now this is the third term of the Xi Jinping that has started. We need to see what more challenges the China will be bringing for India, and in order to deal with that particular challenge, India needed to further strengthen up the diplomacy. It has also to strengthen up the economic and military power at the same time. So this is guys all about this particular article. So this article just tells that the third term has been started. Now see, you don't need to go and you need to see the names, okay, that okay, who have been chosen by the Xi Jinping, what are their rank, in what body they have been selected. That is not something we need to see. We need to see the policy and academic aspect of the articles. So that is all about it, and now we'll move to the next article. Okay, now taking up the next article. So guys, this next article, it talks about the SSD disease that has become a kind of a very big threat for the sandalwood trees and the sandalwood plantations in India. Now this particular article will see with respect to the prelims examination as well as the GS paper number 3 conservation. We'll see this particular article. Okay, so the article says invisible disease wreaks havoc on commercial sandalwood cultivation. Okay, now guys, this article is talking about the SSD, that is the sandalwood spike disease. So basically this disease, it has infected hundreds and the thousands of the trees. Okay, now first of all, the sandalwood spike disease, it can be transmitted through the seeds of the infected trees. It can be infected through some of the vectors, some of the, for example, mosquito. A mosquito can transfer this particular disease from one tree to another tree. Okay, actually there is a phytoplasma bacteria. Fine, there is a bacteria. Now the name of this particular bacteria is phytoplasma. So this phytoplasma are the bacterial parasites of the plant tissues, and they can be transmitted, number one, either by plant to plant transmission could be there. One infected seed, if it has been grown into the plant, then that particular sandalwood spike disease could be manifested. Or third, the mosquitoes or the vectors can transmit this particular disease from one tree to another tree. Now when we talk about this sandalwood spike disease, there is no cure of the trees who have been infected with this SSD disease. Only way out is to cut down that particular tree and remove the infected tree to prevent the spread of the disease. So for example, let's talk, there is a plantation, and in this plantation, let's say there are 100 trees that are there, and if this particular tree got infected, this particular tree, through the tree to tree, plant to plant transmission, or through the vector, will spread this particular disease to the other tree. So therefore only you need to cut this particular tree. Now it has posed a challenge to the commercial growers. Okay, you see this particular thing, that actually it has been provided that there are many of the commercial growers, okay, and as the plantations are getting infected by these particular diseases, a lot of financial losses are there. Okay, now you see this particular thing. In the past, it has been observed that the majority of these SSD disease, they are being transmitted through the infected commercial seeds. Okay, now basically there is no way just by seeing the seeds that whether these seeds are infected or not. Basically a farmer will use the seeds, will grow a tree, and will know about that particular infection only when the sapling will show the symptom of disease, and these symptoms sometimes appear after 3 to 4 years, and in the 3 to 4 years the farmer has invested a lot on that particular plant, had wasted a lot of time, and after the 4 years that particular tree is to be cut down. So therefore what we need presently this particular thing, that there needs to be an accreditation process for the seeds. So all the seeds that are being sold, they need to be tested, they need to be vetted, and there needs to be a process that no such kind of a disease is existing on those seeds, and only then these seeds are needed to be provided to the farmers. So therefore there is an urgent need that this sandalwood spike disease is to be controlled by testing the seeds, fine, and there needs to be a cure that is to be found out urgently, because the sandalwood growers are facing a lot of losses because of that. That is all about this article, and now we'll move to the next article. Okay, deciphering the samba politics in Brazil. Now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, impact of other economies, impact of other countries and their politics on India. Now this particular article is talking about the Brazil. So guys, understand this particular thing, that the Brazil is going to conduct the presidential elections on the October 30, that is after 1 week. Fine. Now first of all, You don't need to track the presidential elections of the Brazil as what is happening, which political parties are contesting, what are the manifesto of these different parties. No, that is not something you need to see. We need to track this particular election as Brazil is an important partner for India. It might have certain implications for India also. Okay. Now, see this particular thing, that basically when we talk about the Brazil elects the head of the state, and the head of the state for the Brazil is the president, and the Brazil also elects the legislature. So the legislature, it is the decision making body for the Brazil, as well as the head of the legislature. Fine. So Brazil appoints both the head as well as the president as well as the legislature. Now, the president into the Brazil is appointed for the term of the 4 years. Now, first of all, why we need to see that what is happening into the Brazil and why we should be concerned about the elections that are happening. Number one, Brazil as well India, both are the part of the BRICS, which stands for Brazil, Russia, China and South Africa. Now, this particular grouping wants to seek the challenge to unipolarity. Okay, so we want to make sure that rather than the unipolarity, there needs to be the multiple poles of the power. Fine. Now, second thing is that basically the Brazil, it holds the chunk of the Amazon forest, and Amazon forest, they are called as the lungs of the world because of the green cover. Today we find this particular thing that the Amazon forests are being threatened a lot because of the deforestation. Basically, you might be knowing this thing that there were the big forest fires that were there into the Brazil. So because of that particular thing, the Amazon are threatened, and to restore the Amazon, we needs to make sure that the government into the Brazil needs to be such which promotes the environmental conservation. So therefore, to preserve the Amazon, the government of Brazil is something which will play a very important role. Then third, understand this particular thing, that right now into the entire Latin America, there is the leftward trend that is being observed. Now this leftward trend, it focuses more on the social welfare and it rejects the neoliberal policies which promote fair competition, which promotes the equality, which gives a little more importance to capitalism. So if in Brazil leftward president comes, then there will be more challenge to the neoliberal policies of free trade, capitalism and all such kind of things. Now, in the article, I had given you a little bit comparison between the India and Brazil. First of all, Brazil, it has 2.59 times area. It has area which is bigger than 2.59 times than of India. Secondly, in the population, so Brazil has big land, but in population, India has more population. India's population is around 1.34 billion, but on the same hand, the Brazil's population is just 213 millions. Okay, so Brazil has 2.5 times bigger land, but population is less than the India, just 213 million. Then next thing is that the GDP, its GDP is half of India. Okay, but average annual income of Brazil is around $7,700, but India's average income is just $2,170. Unemployment rate in Brazil is high, 14.4%, but unemployment rate in India is just 6%. Then at the same time, Brazil, like India, also has multi-party democracy. It has active print and electronic media. Civil society is vibrant. Social media is vibrant. Big middle class is there. Thus, all the features are there in India as well. Big middle class, thriving print media, social media, civil society. Fine. Brazil at the same time has a compulsory voting and a dual citizenship, but India doesn't has compulsory voting. Fine, voting is given to everyone, but it is not a compulsory. India, it has a single citizenship. Brazil has a dual citizenships. Then Brazil has a electronic voting machine based elections as they are happening in India, and 80% voter turnout there is in the Brazil. Then Brazil also has an independent body for the elections, that is the electoral court. Fine. Now the electoral court is similar to the election commission of India. Fine. The electoral court, it conducts the elections. Okay. In the past, the electoral court of Brazil has courageously even called out the president. Fine. Where there was the instance of the voter fraud, EVM tampering. So like the election commission of India, which is an independent body, the electoral court also has been the independent body of the Brazil. Fine. Then further moving on, the Brazil, it has the mixed electoral system. It has the first past the post system and proportional representation. First past the post system means that whosoever will get the more votes will be elected. Now when we talk about India, India also has first past the post system. So guys, this is a brief comparison chart between the Brazil and India that is there. Okay, and why the Brazil's elections are important? They are important because of the three things, because all the two countries are the part of the BRICS, secondly the Amazon, and third, what will be the global politics, in which direction global politics will be moving. Okay, that is all about this particular article. Now moving on into the next article. Ancient stewardship now stamped on the present. Okay, now this particular article, guys, will see with respect to the GS paper number 1, ancient architecture and ancient water conservation strategies. Now in the GS paper number 3, the water conservation and the ancient water conservation, fine, this is something that can be used. So GS3, GS paper number 1, both it will be important. Now the article, when we talk about it, it has been written by the Minister of Jal Shakti, okay, and it has given the multiple examples. Now guys, you might be knowing recently there was the movie which became very popular, that is the Ponniyin Selvan. Now the Ponniyin Selvan, it has again reignited the interest into the South Indian history. The article provides this particular thing, that when we talk about the ancient kings, they had a very special relation with the irrigation systems. They used to invest a lot into the irrigation, water harvesting projects and all such kind of a thing. It provides this particular thing, that the king has a very special relationship with the water. The PS1, the name Ponniyin Selvan, the PS, it stands for the Ponniyin Selvan, it stands for the son of the Kaveri, okay, which shows a very important relation. Now there are certain examples. For example, Karekala Chola, fine. He had developed the ancient check dams of the Tamil Nadu. Now these check dams have played a very important role in regulation of the water, and the check dam of Tamil Nadu, which have been built by the Karikala Chola, it is the oldest water regulatory structure today. It is the heritage irrigation structure which is even in use. So it has been built so many decades back, but still it is a very important irrigation structure. So it shows that how the kings have very special interest in irrigation and how they have developed such engineering marvels. Fine. Then it is provided that basically this grand check dam, it has been used to divert the water of the Kaveri, and the water of the Kaveri reached the fields, and the agriculture was possible because of the check dam that was built by the Karikala Chola. Then the Raja Chola has also developed good water irrigation projects. Moreover, the Raja Chola has developed the structure of water governance. Now, what happened in 2020 when the Prime Minister was laying the foundation, the foundation stone for the Parliament? He highlighted this particular thing, that in history there are many examples where we have decentralized governance systems. He had given the example of the village of Uttar Merur. So in the village of Uttar Merur in Tamil Nadu, there are the stone inscription that show that the panchayat systems during the Chola Empire explained that how every village was categorized as a kudumbu. So village was a kudumbu. Kudumbu simply means the ward. So today in the cities we have the wards. So in the same way, there were the kutumbus in the village, and these village were given the autonomy. Okay, so the village councils, they were given autonomy. They can decide that what amount of water will be available to them. So water audits were provided at that point of a time. Fine, this is something. After that, it's provided that in the ancient time, the kings, they used to unify the land under him. They used to create the landlords. They used to create the dependent government servants, and these dependent government servants will ensure that the water governance is being carried effectively. Fine. There are many references. Fine. There is the Vashisht's Dharma Shastra. Even there are the preferences that have been found that it has been provided that in the past we find that even Vishnuji has dictated as how the water governance is to be carried. So Vashisht Dharma Shastra, Chanakya's Arthashastra, they had what instructions onto the water management. In this particular thing, it provided that the king had a special responsibility King had a special responsibility for water conservation, rainwater harvesting. Moreover, the king at that point of a time developed the ancient tanks which provide the water to all the communities. These particular tanks were not very big, they were not very grand structures, they were developed keeping in mind the topography. Keeping in mind the topography, and if the topography allowed for the smaller tank, the small tank will be there. If there is a possibility of a big tank, it could be developed, but never the focus were only on developing the grand structures. There was, every village had the Neerkati. Now Neerkati, it is an officer who is in charge of the irrigation, and and the Neerkati ensured that the water is being supplied from these tanks to the fields, and there is a dedicated schedule, dedicated structure. That schedule is to be followed so that every village, every field get their dedicated share of water. There is also Parakeshrivaram in scripture. Parakeshrivaram inscription. Now this Parakeshrivaram inscription has provided the punishment for the unauthorized withdrawal of water. Okay. Then Raja Raja Chola one has he has been an effective micromanager of the order. He has been micromanager of the highest order, and at the same time he had also developed the dams. More than 5,000 dams have been developed, and even a water ministry was also established which makes sure that the water utilization is effective. Moreover, it has also been provided that we need to now revisit the past. In the past, we have developed many wise structures for the water management. When we talk about the Pallavs had a separate body for the lake management called as Erivarium. So there was a separate body, and the King Rudradaman of Junagadh and Gujarat had used a lot of money in building the embankments, in repairing the embankments of the Lake Sudarshan when it was destroyed. So a lot of money was invested. Moreover, it has been provided that, guys, we also need to understand that, see, we remember the Shah Jahan because he built the Taj Mahal in the memory of his wife, which was a symbol of love. But at the same time, Rani Ki Vav is also a very important structure which was built by the Queen Odimvati, which was built in the memory of King Bhimdev. Now this particular step wall into the Gujarat, it is the symbol of love, and it is a heritage structure which has helped in giving water to many of the thousands and thousands of people. So Rani Ki Vav, it is an ancient water structure. Okay, so therefore it has been provided that when we talk about the water structures into the past, there was the water structures which were at the heart of the great empire. Basically, now when the people are not getting the water, when the agrarians, the farmers are not getting the water, it means a lot of big miseries to them. So as a part of an empathy, the big empires have developed these water structures into the past. So now also such kind of a great structures are either needed to be revived, or we need to learn from them. Okay, that is all about it, and now we'll move to the next. Now, moving on in this with this particular article, 36 satellites launched by ISRO's heaviest rocket send signal. Now, guys, see this particular thing. Now, this particular article is an important article for two of the developments. I'll tell you that particular development. Then, but before that, we'll see first of all what has happened. Now, see this thing. Recently, the ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, it has launched its heaviest rocket, that is the Launch Vehicle Mark 3, LVM3, Launch Vehicle Mark 3, or it is also called as the GSLV Mark 3. Now this GSLV Mark 3 has been launched from the Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. Now this particular Mark 3, okay, LVM3, it has placed in orbit 36 satellites of the OneWeb. Okay, now guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the OneWeb, now OneWeb, it is the UK's organization which aims to provide the satellite internet to the areas which are not connected. So the rural areas, the inhabited areas, the jungles where the infrastructure for mobile is not there, where the broadband is not there, there the satellite infrastructure will be provided. So OneWeb, it is a UK's organization. Now you see this thing, that the OneWeb has signed an agreement with the Airtel. Okay, now basically what has happened, network access Association Limited, OneWeb, it is a joint venture between the India's Bharti Enterprise, which owns Airtel, and the UK government. And under this, the satellite connectivity will be provided. And for that, 36 satellites have been launched. Secondly, guys, this is very important because basically the rocket that has been launched, that is the LVM-3, this is a dedicated commercial satellite of the New Space India Limited. Now what is this NSIL? So NSIL, it is a dedicated commercial wing of the ISRO. Now ISRO will provide its services, ISRO will provide its rockets for the commercial purposes, and for that thing NSIL has been created. So this is the NSIL's launch, which has been created under the Department of Space. Now you see this particular thing. In 2020, we came with the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, and under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, the space sector was to be liberalized, and the space sector, the ISRO will have a commercial wing, and NSIL, fine, is doing that particular work. So the LVM-3, it is a dedicated rocket for the NSCIL, which has been launched, and it has launched these 36 satellites which will provide the satellite connectivity. So guys, for this particular thing, this is an important development. Now whatever we have highlighted, that is important. You don't need to go too much into the detail in this particular thing, just the objectives are important. Now moving on to the next article. UK is ready to support manufacture of Indian jet engines, says envoy. Now, this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2 IR India UK cooperation. Okay. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that into the past, India, we have also seen many of the articles that India has focused on developing the fighter jet engine. So developing a fighter jet engine is a very important priority for the India right now. Now when we talk about the developing the fighter jet engines, India is negotiating the memorandum of understanding with the global engine makers, and in that we have certain companies. For example, there is General Electric of the US, second is the Rolls-Royce of the UK, and third is the Safran of the France. Now we are trying to negotiate an agreement with one of them out of these three. Now in this particular direction, guys, the UK's Rolls-Royce, they had offered that they are ready to support the indigenization of defense and manufacturing of jet engines for the India. So UK is ready to give the technology, UK is ready to provide the help to the India. Now, in this particular direction, the UK's envoy had provided that the India-UK relations have always been very much vibrant, and in order to take these relations to a next height, the Rolls-Royce is ready to provide the assistance to the India. Okay. Now, basically, in the past, we see this particular thing that India is increasing the cooperation with the partners such as the UK in the Indo-Pacific. India is trying to improve its clout. Now see this particular thing, the Indian engagements, military engagements in the Indian Ocean region has increased. It also into the Indo-Pacific, India's military engagement has increased. You see this particular thing, that Malabar naval exercise is being conducted by India, Australia, Japan, USA. Then the Malabar exercise, it will be carried in the November. Then at the same time, there is the US and India bilateral exercise, that is the Yudh Abhyas, that is scheduled to be held in Uttarakhand in the November. So basically, as India is focusing the attention on the Indo-Pacific, India needs to have a military strength, India needs to have air strength, and for that particular thing, we need to have more and more fighter jets. And for fighter jets, the fighter jet engine is the most important component. So therefore, the UK's Rolls-Royce is now ready to provide assistance to India. So guys, this is a kind of a one example that how India and UK are helping each other in order to maintain a rule-based order in the region as a whole. So that is all, guys, about this particular article. Fine. Beyond that, you don't need to go and read anything in this particular thing. Fine. That is all about it. And now we'll move to the mains practice question for the today. So today's mains practice question reads, discuss how the new education policy 2020 is a transformative step in revolutionizing education in India. So this is a 15-marker question for GS paper number 2. So that is all, guys, for the today. I hope that you have understood this particular article. So that is all for today. Thank you so much.